This is a work of science fiction. And in some elements of it, when it was written, it was not exactly totally off on the edge, but there were a lot of things. Video games were just coming out. Unmanned vehicles drones were just starting to come out at that point. So when he was writing this, he was putting it into the context of being more pervasive. Let me ask you two parts to this question. I already asked you a little bit about where do you think we're going with these kinds of vehicles and this kind of stuff, this sort of technological advances that we're making in the context of where we should be going with technology and so on. But also, the other question is more like, how do we respond and how do we react to the populations that we may be encountering in this process? They were dealing with an alien race and trying to protect themselves from this alien invasion. Where will the technology take us, and how would we be responding to, say, an alien invasion or some kind of a movement upon ourselves, I guess is the way to phrase it. So let me just kind of pass it down the line and see who might be interested in speculating.
That's a great question. I think the number one response that I would have, Sharon, is that we really need to work to understand who it is we're dealing with. If it's an alien race, we haven't had that experience that I know of, but if it's an alien race or if it's people from a different culture or a different country, one of the lessons that I thought was very strong from Ender was his tremendous desire to understand his enemy, to come, and he studied his enemy, and he tried to think in the way that his enemy was thinking. And he even goes so far as to say he studied them so deeply that he came to love them. But oftentimes at that moment, it was the moment in which he was also moving to destroy them. So, you know, my sense of how it is that we respond and react to populations we may encounter is, I think, we need to study them and we need to understand who it is we're dealing with, and to do that before we move to perhaps reacting in a way that is more violent. I'm not opposed to protecting our world, to protecting our nation, to protecting ourselves, but I think we have to also use our wisdom to come to understand who the enemy is and how we might best approach them first. You know, what I hear in the end of the book is Ender saying, maybe these people weren't out to get us. It's not really known, and he moves forward. I've not read the other books, but clearly he moves forward with compassion for these people once he comes to, or the buggers, once he comes to understand them. And I think that sometimes we react too quickly without understanding who the enemy is, and then well, I think once we understand it, we're more apt to live in a more peaceful way rather than moving to violence.
I think we often look at science fiction as about the future. We think about science fiction novels and movies as predicting the future, space flight and time travel and whatever you have. But I think science fiction, we're told by a lot of science fiction authors, are, you know, when they think about it, they're really writing about the present. They're taking present problems and present anxieties and projecting them into the future, onto the screen of the future, so we can sort of see what it is we're afraid of, see what it is that bothers us. And I think what bothers us right now is something we call xenophobia. It's a Greek word. It means, you know, fear of the other, fear of the foreign, fear of the strange. And you see xenophobia in our culture currently all over the place. There's fear of the, you know, illegal immigrant alien coming across the border into the United States, taking our jobs away. There's fear of other religions, Muslims, you know, who are not like us. There are fear of other races, fear of, you know, the Chinese, and, you know, they're elsewhere and they're different, and therefore they're going to, you know, take over the world or something. So we have this fear of others, and I think part of what the book is about is working through this xenophobia, working through this fear of the other, and coming to terms with how we deal with the threat of others, but also the opportunity of engaging others. And I think Ender really, you know, puzzles through that in ways that are interesting. I mean, he is a originally in the position of attacking and destroying the other, and later on is in the position of trying to understand and, help that which he had previously attacked. So I think there's a whole lot of xenophobia being played out in this novel that mean something not for a future invader from the stars, but for the way we deal with us here now on planet Earth.